It feels like we've gone down a funny tree in like a timeline. I've been playing more computer games lately because of lockdown. I'm sure everyone else. And right. I keep thinking to myself, can we go back to the previous save point? And just like...
Hello and welcome to this episode of Because Language, a show about linguistics, the science of language. My name's Daniel Midgley, and with me for this episode, the effervescent Hedvig Hurgard.
What does effervescent mean?
Well, we have with us, okay, yes. I guess now's a good time to bring out our guest. We are joined by a very special guest for this episode. She's a lexicographer, a former writer of definitions for Merriam-Webster, a former presenter of the Fiat Lex podcast with Steve Kleinadler, author of Word by Word, The Secret Life of Dictionaries, and most recently appearing on Netflix's The History of Swear Words. It's Kory Stamper. Hi, Kory.
Hello, hello.
Is effervescent a swear word? I'm assuming it's not.
It's not. No, it's a nice term.
Okay.
He was calling you bubbly and full of life. So lovely.
Oh.
That's a good definition. You must be a pro.
I got a little practice.
Ben Ainsley has been waylaid by forces beyond his control for this episode and asked me to convey his most salubrious salutations.
Aw. Oh, thanks, Ben.
God.
Now, we haven't talked to you for a while. We had a crossover episode with you, Kory, a couple of years ago. Since then, you've been pretty busy. Would that be fair to say?
I've been a little busy, yeah. I've been, as we have just covered, I was on the Netflix show History of Swearing as an expert. I've been doing some freelance lexicography. So right now I'm actually doing freelance lexicography for Cambridge University. And I've continued to write books. I just can't seem to stop doing that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Does that mean if you're a lexicographer and you're writing a lot of books, does that mean you know what the opposite is of writer's block?
I do. It's practice, but that doesn't mean that I am not waylaid by writer's block constantly. So, alas. Writer's flow, I guess.
Writer's flow is good. Right.
Yeah.
What's the new book you're working on? I knew that you had one in the hopper.
I actually have two that are now in the hopper. The first one that's most in the hopper, I guess I can say, is a book that looks at the history of defining color and looks at a particular point in American history where color became a national security concern. And so the government got involved in how colors were defined. Which is weird. So that one I have just finished edits on, and the second book that I am neck deep in right now and very much enjoying is a book called Mother Tongue: The Hidden History of How Women Made the English Language. So that'll be fun. When I finish it, I'm almost literally neck deep in it. My desk is piled high with secondary sources and primary sources. So
gosh,
wow, where do you get all these great ideas for books from? They sound so special and interesting.
Well, we'll see if I can pull it off.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's a lot to stick into 300 pages, but we'll see if I can do it.
Okay, we'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, because I feel like sometimes I watch movies or I read books and I think, oh, this is a great author or this is a good director, but the idea has to carry the...
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes... Honestly, the idea doesn't, even if the acting is very good or the writing is very good, if the idea doesn't carry it, then it's, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm impressed that you're able to spout these ideas.
Well, the idea is, actually the easiest part of the writing of the book. So we'll see how Mother Tongue goes. I'm really enjoying the research for it, though. It is very much up my alley. Yeah.
I heard that humans didn't have receptors for the color blue in their eyes until we had the words for them, and then we evolved them. So that was interesting.
Interesting, but but not true.
Oh, darn. Another one.
It's like they say, the thing I always hear is people are like, we didn't see blue until at some point in, the 14th century because we had no words in ancient Greek for blue, which is hysterical because they actually had 2 words for blue. They just don't match up with the color area that we think of as blue. When you think of blue, you have a particular color in mind, and they split that into 2 colors. So,
to be fair, though, I mean, there's an argument, not to be the annoying person, but you could say say that
the annoying person. That's fine.
Right? Even if it wasn't true that there wasn't a word for blue, you could say, oh yeah, sure, we received the particular frequencies in our eyes that was blue, but for all intents and purposes in the human conceptual understanding of the world, blue didn't exist. That's like an argument.
It's not dumb.
Yeah.
It's not a dumb thing to think, right? Which is what I think everyone's going for. We can notice things that we don't have words for, which is how we get new words. So it's not quite right.
Yeah.
Right. Not quite.
I've heard, so Daniel got to show off that he knew an interesting tidbit about color, albeit false. I heard that European languages really exploded in color terms because of dyeing processes in the late medieval ages.
Yeah, I think that's true. Most of the pigments that were used for dyeing and paint were prepared in Europe and prepared in the Levantine. And so, and oftentimes you would identify a color by its pigment. So the more pigments that you had access to, the more color names you had. So, and we've lost a lot of those names now, right? Like there was a yellow called orpiment that was really popular in the Renaissance. And we don't use the word orpiment anymore for yellow because it's actually very difficult to say.
Orpiment.
What a freaking dumpy word. Oh my gosh.
Orpiment. I know. It's, and the yellow orpiment makes is kind of it's like a duller mustardy yellow. So it is kind of
ochre.
Yeah. Kind of like it's a little brighter than that. So it's a little brighter than ochre, and it's a little but it's not like super bright like our modern conception of gold would be. It's a little bit toned down from gold.
Interesting.
Right.
But a weird word, orpiment. It sounds like you're tripping over your own teeth when you say it. It's really rough.
Hand me some more orpiment.
Yeah, right? It's like, oh.
Oh, I wish I hadn't said that. Yeah. Well, we're interested in color terms and how that relates to the mind, so we might be bothering you again. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
For now, we have to bother you on swearing. Before we get to that, we're having a bonus mailbag episode pretty soon. So if you want to hear that and support the show, get onto patreon.com/becauselangpod. Also get those questions to us. hello@becauselanguage.com, or we are Because Lang Pod nearly everywhere. Let's do some news. You ready?
You bet.
Yes.
Okay. We're starting with racist cheese.
Like you do.
This is... we've gotten a lot of mileage out of racist cheese, actually. Oh my gosh. How many shows have we had on this? About 4?
Yeah, I was going to say about 4. Yeah.
I think this is number 4. Well, Pharaoh Cat has alerted us to some new information. We finally have a resolution because the racist cheese is no longer racist. Kory, when you got the run sheet with this Australian brand of cheese, what was your reaction?
Oh, that it was racist. And, this might be because, this particular word has maybe a different resonance in America than it has in other English-speaking parts of the world, just because it's associated with slavery and the racism of slavery. So, but yeah, it was one of those, I looked at it and I just thought, who in their right mind would ever name any company that?
Or keep it, having named it that. Yep. So the Saputo Corporation decided that they were going to rename their racist brand of cheese. Starts with a C, ends with an N. It's got a couple of vowels in the middle, So...
I was just going to say the thing that I think I say every episode, which is that I didn't know about this term and I had to be educated on it because it's not something I think it it wasn't something I was ever taught or ever exposed to. I keep coming across various racist slurs. Like I watched Police Academy last night and I learned a bunch of racist slurs that I'd never heard. There's a lot of them that I've never heard. Yeah. It's quite surprising how many.
It's not great.
No, it's not. And another thing that's not great, well, okay, maybe this is better. The name of the cheese is being changed in July. This new cheese is going to be hitting your shelves. Cheer cheese. Cheer. That's the name of the cheese.
Cheer cheese.
Cheer cheese. Cheer. It's not great, but it would be really hard to make the name worse than it already had been.
Very true. Absolutely true.
Is it cheer as in cheers or cheer as in sheer?
It's...
As in cheers.
Okay, now I'm imagining people trying to clink cheese together in a salutary gesture.
Okay.
Cheer. Flap.
Yeah,
you know.
Smush.
Sandwich slices. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Australia already has tasty cheese, so like I'm not surprised.
Yeah, tasty cheese, but it's not a brand. Tasty cheese is like a variety, like Colby.
I know.
Yeah.
It's still bizarre.
Tasty.
Anyway.
Maybe cheer is tasty. You know, maybe the cheese landscape in Australia just got that little bit brighter, you know?
Yeah.
Some people are pig biting mad, and we've heard from them on our Facebook page and on Twitter. Some people are just a little too into their cheese, okay? Like, imagine who you'd have to be to say, well, on the one hand, we could get rid of a racist slur, but on the other hand, I'm really into the name of this cheese. I mean, you know, what are Mr. C's family gonna think?
I mean, the recipe of the cheese is still the same. It's made by the same people. It probably tastes exactly the same, correct? Right?
It's not gonna taste the same to me.
Okay, all right. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. I think we know what this is about, and it's not about cheese. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the old thing about everyone used to do things that I did, but now things are changing, and we're expected to not use racist language, and I don't know how to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is actually quite good, because this change to cheer... Sorry, I'm going to have to get used to it, but still...
Cheer cheese.
Cheer cheese.
Cheer cheese.
This change to cheer cheese harms no one except for people who want to be harmed. Mm-hmm. It's self-inflicted. And they're the ones who deserve to be hurt, frankly. They could stop being hurt at any time on behalf of their beloved cheese, but, you know, they can choke on it. They can choke on the cheer cheese. This is the alliterative show.
Okay.
We are going to move on. It looks like the U.S. House of Representatives is adopting some gender-neutral language for their rules document. Anyone notice this story? What did you notice?
I did notice this story. I noticed this story because a U.S. representative who, how do I put this gently, has a reputation for being not particularly smart.
Oh, God. Is it? Now I have to guess who it is.
I know. Well, the field is pretty broad, sadly.
I know.
So, but he tweeted his outrage that this was happening, that the House was requiring what he called gender-neutral pronouns. And then he gave a list of words like mother, father, brother, sister, sister-in-law, and said it was an outrage. And because I am who I am, I couldn't not respond to him. So I just responded to him and I said, none of those are pronouns, Jim. And
I was going to say Kevin McCarthy, but it was Jim Jordan, wasn't it?
It was Jim Jordan, yes.
Oh, God.
I mean, yes. So
yeah, of course it was.
Of course it was. So I heard about this, and then I was interested to see if actually pronouns were included. So somebody on Twitter sent me a link to the rules document, and I thought it was actually a really pretty well considered and pretty thorough revision. I don't believe that it's mandated you must use these things, unlike Jim Jordan thinks, but it is nice to see that, parent is there, child is there. I think that just it's equally clear. It's
do they
not
encourage he/she or they?
I was looking out for singular they just to see what they would do.
Yeah, I don't remember. Now I need to pull the document up again.
All right, well, let's go through the list. So,
Okay.
seamen will be replaced with seafarers,
Right.
Okay.
which
Very important. I mean, yeah.
it's in there. It's in there. Chairman will become chair. Kory, as you mentioned, mother, father, daughter, son, sister, brother will be swapped with terms such as parent, child, and sibling. We still need nibbling, though. Niece and nephew.
Nibbling.
What do we do?
Nibbling. Yeah.
Nibbling.
Nibbling.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Instead of this person will submit his or her resignation, they will resign.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little rewording there, which is very, very neat. The phrases he or she serves and he or she holds will be replaced with such member, delegate, or resident commissioner serves or holds. So just avoiding pronouns entirely.
Right.
Okay.
And then finally, and this is good, himself and herself will be replaced with, get ready, themself.
Whoa, themself. Whoa.
Isn't that good?
That's so good.
Yeah, themself.
Oh, man, themself.
Taking it all the way back to Caxton.
This is going to make so many people, so many grammar nerds so upset that it's not themselves. Oh, themself. Amazing.
That's great.
All right, my day is hereby made. That's awesome.
Mine too. Mine too. I notice also the establishment of the office of the whistleblower ombuds instead of ombudsman.
Oh, and instead of ombudsperson, which is one I've
Yes.
also seen.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
but
Why did they keep the S?
Yeah. I mean,
what?
it's a government office, so you would think they'd want the longest title possible. But, I mean, ombuds is fine.
Yeah, but you couldn't call them an ombud, would you? Would you?
That is the Scandinavian word.
Yes, it is.
Right, that's true.
So, but we delete the S unless it's ombudsman, so it's ombud.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the S is a connective S.
Oh, interesting.
So the S, like if you delete the man, you shouldn't really have the S. But I mean, it's a part of your language now. You do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
Thank you for. I would just, on behalf of English, I would just like to say, Hedvig, we appreciate the word. Thank you for loaning it to us.
Yeah.
From Norse. Is
Yeah.
it Norse?
Yeah.
It's Old Norse.
Scandi.
Okay, so that's two things to get people angry about, and now that I think we've riled people up enough, I think now it's time to have some good news, and they both involve COVID. This one was suggested by Diego and Nigel in various places on our Discord channel and on Patreon. We know that the various vaccines are being rolled out around the globe, which is great news. Time to beat back this virus. And it seems that the Standing Rock Sioux tribe in North Dakota and the Cherokee tribe in Oklahoma are prioritizing the distribution of the COVID vaccine to people who speak Native American languages. If you're a fluent speaker,
great.
then
that's
you're in
awesome.
line a little earlier, which is great.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Standing Rock Tribal Chairman Mike Faith says it's something we have to pass on to our loved ones, our history, our culture, our language. We don't have it in black and white. We tell stories. That's why it's so important.
That is amazing.
I just like this because one of the most serious effects in Australia of COVID is that we are losing people who are the bearers of Australian Aboriginal languages, and it's pretty serious. Unfortunately, we're not prioritizing Aboriginal people who speak traditional languages. In Australia, it looks like Aboriginal people over 55 are in Group 1B, which is the same group that elderly adults 70 or over are in. So that's a little prioritization. I think that'll scoop up some people who speak languages, and so it's kind of an indirect thing, but it's not specifically language-based.
Right. So how I've heard people say that it's great to do very fine prioritizing of who gets things at what time, but if that prioritizing becomes so much work that it takes longer time to roll things out, then it sort of It's like a bit of a cost-benefit analysis, like how much time do you want to spend evaluating people's line in the queue versus serving people? And evaluating whether or not someone speaks a language sounds... I guess they just go by what people say. Like they can't really test people, surely.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think a good priority is just rolling it out as fast as possible, which fortunately in Australia, I think we'll do a pretty good job of.
Right.
Yeah. And it might also be, my guess is that so in the States, all of the vaccine rollout is left specifically to states, and for Native peoples who are part of federally recognized tribal groups, they have administration over their own vaccine rollout as well. So my guess is that that's going to be sort of a crowdsourced community effort. I would assume, for instance, that the Standing Rock know who their fluent elders are and would say, we'll get everyone, or just sort of all elders. I think, in America, the native view of language is not that it's, we don't think of it as just language. You just think of it as this is cultural knowledge. And so even if someone might not be totally fluent in it, if they know enough of it that they can pass on cultural knowledge and story, then my guess is that they might include those people too, if they have enough vaccine. Yay!
Okay, moving along. But hey, let's have some more cheer cheese and talk about our next story. And this is from Liz on Facebook. There is a constable, a police officer who won the award for police excellence last month. It's Senior Constable Sam Lim in Western Australia. He has won the award because he speaks 10 different languages. Nice. He's Chinese. He was born and raised in Malaysia, so he spoke Malay, Mandarin, Indonesian, Burmese, and so on. And what he's been doing is working with language communities, informing them, and also dispelling misleading information about COVID.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I wish I'm not Christian, and I keep wanting to say things like God bless or he's doing God works or things like that. I need an atheist equivalent. Because
I always use Zeus for that. So I say, I swear to Zeus, if I hear one more.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You could pick a Norse deity, Hedvig.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
That's it's getting co-opted.
No.
That's true.
No.
Because if you walk around saying he's doing Odin's work, people will be like,
oh,
fuck.
that's very true. Yeah.
What a Nazi. Oh my God.
Yeah. The Q shaman had Norse tattoos.
I know.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm so sorry.
No, but this police officer doing this is amazing. Did he go like outside of his regular duties to perform this, or?
Well, this is kind of one of those arguments for defunding the police. What's he doing as a police officer doing this? I'm not going to complain about doing good stuff, but gee, we could have lots of people doing this.
Oh yeah.
But he is in a position of trust in the community, and he just quickly translates materials into Chinese, Burmese, and he answers people's questions.
Wow. Yes, amazing.
That's awesome.
So, doing good stuff. So, that's our inspirational note for the news.
Cheer cheese.
Cheers.
I refuse. I will never say that trade name without completely aligning it together.
Cheer cheese.
Cheer cheese and fronting it. It's going to be frontal. It's going to be a single word.
All of us, let's say it together. 1, 2, 3.
Cheer cheese.
Thank you. We are here with lexicographer Kory Stamper, who's been working on the history of swear words on Netflix, featuring Nicolas Cage.
So weird.
Not bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can you tell us, Nicolas Cage, good or bad?
Oh, so here is the really disappointing thing. Because this was filmed during COVID, I met nobody else because we had to film things in accordance with COVID procedure.
Fair enough.
So I don't know. I can't, if you hate Nicolas Cage, you can continue to hate him. If you love him, you can continue to love him. I have no opinion on Nicolas Cage based on personal experience.
No, I was referring to there's this joke in Community about whether Nicolas Cage is fundamentally that all actors fundamentally play evil or good characters.
Oh yes,
and Nicolas Cage is confusing because he plays both, and
with equal zeal.
Yeah, exactly.
with relish.
Yeah.
All right, so no backstage goss, but I would like to know what it was like to film the show anyway. I mean, did folks, was that in your house or?
No, that was another thing. We were going to do it at my house, but my house is too small to hold everybody for COVID protocols. So they rented an Airbnb in the large city that I live next to, and I showed up and happened to match the chair behind the filming spot. Yeah, they were like, "Oh, have you been here before?" It's like, "No." They're like, "Ah, your shirt matches the chair perfectly. This is we're gonna relight this." So okay.
I would have thought that you would bring different shirts for different episodes.
I did bring a bunch of different shirts, but we ended up. I think it worked so well. And we also, it was sort of we had a limited amount of time because it wasn't at my house. So it couldn't be as long as they needed to be. But it was an odd thing, I think, because, I was being interviewed via Zoom for COVID protocols. And it was also a little bit odd to do. We did, sort of this whole run through, and they just asked me all these questions about all these swear words. And then I went home and I thought, I don't know how that fits in with any of the other stuff that they're doing. So I was really very pleasantly surprised when I got to see the show, and I was like, oh, okay, good. This is actually well researched. I'm so glad.
It does. It hangs together, and it's got lots of great guests, including comedians and cognitive scientist Ben Bergen, who's been on the show before as well.
Yeah.
So, wow.
It was good.
I was happy with it. It was a really good bit.
Yeah, I was pleased. I was very pleased to be involved. And the lighting made me look so good. That was the other thing. I was like, dang, I look so professional up there. If only they knew. Alas.
You do.
Well, you are a professional.
I guess I am, huh?
I think you are.
How did you know what to prepare for? Did they have the list of... So there's 6 episodes, and each one focuses on a different word. I guess they gave you the list and said, all right, tell us what you know about thing.
Yeah, basically, they also, they had writers that they could filter questions to me about, and that was really, really fun too, because, so for those who don't want to hear swearing, perhaps duck out now. But so for instance, with fuck, everyone was like, okay, I heard it's from this, acronymic phrase. I heard it's from this acronymic phrase. I heard it's from, and so being able to interact, even though we're not all in a room together with the writers, and say, no, it's not that. It's not that. This is what we think. So basically, I got a list of words. I knew that I would be sort of the etymological expert, which is frankly terrifying and hysterical to me, but I prepared what I could. And then it was, when we did the filming, it was really conversational, which was really lovely. So I had things prepared, but it was really a conversation about how these words move through the English language, how people use them differently, why would people use these words in different ways. So it was not at all what I expected, which is for it to be a little bit more like a scripted, we want you to say this and do this. It was very conversational. So it was fun. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's great.
Now, to the content, the sense that I got from watching the show was that a lot of things that we consider swears now used to be no big deal. It was either the word for sex or poop or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or it wasn't even that. It started out as something else. When did these words start to have their punch? Was it in Victorian times? Can we blame the Victorians?
For some of them, you absolutely can blame the Victorians. Most of any sort of bodily fluid or sex one became hyper taboo during the Victorian era. And before that, it really just depended. I think when we think of when we think of register and when we think of tone, we are coming out of a period. Well, first, it's different in different English-speaking countries, right? So the C word in America is the worst thing that you could ever call someone, and it's like a friendly, rough greeting in the Commonwealth, right? So I think that we come to these words with that kind of weight of Victorian taboo still clinging to us. And so it can be a little shocking then if you're going back and you're reading, I think especially with the advent of the internet and digitization, we get all sorts of, pulpy, tabloidy kinds of stuff that was around in the 16 and 1700s that libraries collect, and they're really profane. And so, but some of these words have always had a bit of a punch. Fuck is a great example. Some of its earliest uses are in this sort of, in fact, its earliest use as a verb to refer to sexual intercourse is macaronic. So it shows up in basically like a screed against the priests of Ely, I think is how you say that.
Yes,
in Britain.
That's right.
Yeah. And
Right.
And it's this big screed saying who's going to go to heaven and who's not going to go to heaven, and the
Wait,
what it
sorry.
says
What is screed?
Screed is like a
I love this.
written rant. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I googled it. It says that it is a flat piece of carton.
Yes, it does also mean that it can be a screed can be
Okay.
I'm gesturing, not that you can see me gesturing.
Amazing.
It's so good that
That's
I work
okay.
from home now because I'm not waving my hands around in my cubicle like I used to. Screed is kind of a fancy word for basically like a written, slightly more formal rant, basically.
Okay.
Jeremiad.
Yes.
Okay.
It is a Jeremiad.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But this little bit of writing says in Latin non sunt caeli, which means they won't be in heaven, and then it goes on in English with and it says fucking the wives of Ely. These priests who are fucking the wives of Ely will not be in heaven. But the word fucking is shifted over one letter. Everything's shifted over one letter. So you can tell it's not an English word. It starts with a G and then ends, G, V, D. And you kind of look at it and you're like, okay, it's clearly code. All you need to do is shift it down one letter in the alphabet to see what they were saying. So there's some indication early on that word was not appropriate in certain settings, right? It wasn't just like, whatever.
The fact that they had to hide it was kind of an admission of guilt, right? Because by that time, fuck had become bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that the other thing is, this is around 1500. There are lots of other words to use for sex at this point. The English language does not lack for words that refer to sex. So the fact that they chose this one and that they felt it was so strong that they had to hide it in a cipher says that's an interesting choice to me. That's all. But yeah, so lots of these words don't. The one word that did start really as a very strong profanity and has actually gone through semantic bleaching through the ages, so now we barely think of it as a profanity, is damn, which was much stronger in the 11th century and the 12th century and the 17th century, and really starts to lose its punch in the late 19th century. And now it's just now in America, it doesn't get bleeped on, and I feel like America is very uptight and nervous about swearing. So if something gets, if something's not bleeped on American television, then you might as well have it on like whatever, Peppa Pig, right? It's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
People in my religious community of origin still cling to that taboo.
For damn?
For damn, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. There are definitely, there are groups that still find it to be offensive, and especially, especially when paired with the word God, they will, gall darn, gosh darn, tarnation. That's a minced oath for damnation. It still exists. So even though I'm saying that America doesn't care, there are still groups of people who find it to be offensive.
Well, now I feel like it would be a good time to get to our listener questions. So are you ready for a lightning round?
You bet.
Okay, Nikolai on our Discord channel asks, your favorite swear?
Fuck, for sure. That's just how it is.
Wow, okay. I thought you were going to go for a shit-gibbon because they're so trendy and boutique.
No, but the thing is that fuck has versatility. You can use it. You can use it in combination. You can use it as a verb. You can use it both as a positive intensifier and a negative intensifier. It can be used as an infix. It just, it's just sort of beautifully versatile.
Yeah.
And it's got great phonetics. I love the phonetics of it. Starts with the fricative, ends with a hard K. It's great. It's everything you want in a swear.
Since you mentioned infixation, have you observed any instances of 2020 being used as an infix?
I have, but I have, but only in writing, because I did hear someone attempt to say abso 2020 lutely, and someone interrupted them midway through and was like, I'm sorry, like they didn't recognize 2020 as the infix. So I have seen it, but I've not seen it take off in the way that you would think that it would. It might be because 2021 thus far has not been so great. So why highlight 2020 when 2021 is just 2020 part 2?
2020A. Oh dear. Deoxu on Facebook. Which swear word has a really good hidden backstory?
Oh, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I actually think that fuck is a really good one because it shows up, before it shows up as a swear, it shows up in place names, it shows up in actual people's names, and we don't have enough context to know what those things mean. It shows up in a dialect word, I think it's a 13th century dialect word for a kestrel, which was a kind of hawk, windfucker. And
wow. Because he beats the wind, right?
Yes, that's exactly it. He beats the wind.
Yep. And for this, I have to just clarify. So it comes from Dutch "fokken," to thrust or to beat or to hit. Am I? Yeah. That's from memory.
Yes. Good memory, Daniel. Good memory.
Thanks, Kory.
But it's because it shows up in names and in place names that hints at the fact that it had some kind of a life before we adopted it as a general vocab term. And we're not sure if the sort of generalized vocab word that came to mean sex was kind of wordplay and kind of winky wordplay, or if it was just, if that meaning, to have sex, had been in existence all the time, but had never actually been recorded because there was just enough taboo to that meaning that that it wouldn't show up. It would only show up in place names or in surnames or in what we think might be nicknames too. There is evidence of someone, I think Robin, fucked by the navel, and who knows what that means. Does that mean that he got hit in the stomach, or he punched someone in the stomach, or that he didn't know how to have sex with someone, or like we just don't know. But the fact that it shows up and shows up long ago, so it becomes associated with sex in writing. Our first written uses around 1500, but these other uses and names go back to the 13th century. They go back to the 1200s. So it had a long life before we became aware of it as a swear. So I think that's like, it is truly hidden. We don't know anything else about its life prior to about 1500.
Deaksu also asks, what old-timey swear would you like to bring back? You mentioned tarnation. That's a good candidate.
Tarnation's a good one. I also like odds bodkins.
What?
Because it's ridiculous. Odds bodkins.
Wait, bodkin. I know something about bodkin. Wait. It's a play. No, I don't. I've been. So usually I read a lot of like American books, and I turn to my native speaker English husband and I ask him for words. And lately I'm reading British books and I'm learning a lot of new words.
Oh yeah.
But bodkin, I know, we talked about bodkin before, haven't we? No?
I think so. What is it? A thing that you wear?
So it can be. A bodkin can be two different things. It started life referring to like a dagger, like a short dagger. And then it was also used to refer to like pins, like long pins that women wore in their hair.
Like bobkin.
Yeah. Or like a pin-shaped ornament that women would wear. Yeah. So it referred to something like long and pointed, mostly ornamental, or a dagger. And it, for reasons that, well, no, I do know why, but it's so circuitous, it makes me laugh. Yeah. So odds bodkins is a shortening of God's bodkin. You can't use God because you can't use the name of God, so it was often shortened to odd, which is just ridiculous.
Which is odd, but
right.
Okay.
So there's your minced oath for God. It was not appropriate to use the name of God in any kind of explosive interjective way. So you have odds, and then bodkin referring to the head of the spear that pierced the side of Christ. So these things took on like this mystical quality in the Middle Ages. And so using invoking these things was super profane, because you're also invoking the thing that led to the death of Jesus Christ, which was not a great thing. So odds bodkins is ridiculous because it's ridiculous. It's just a ridiculous sounding word. But also, when it shows up, it is a minced oath that is almost nasty enough to be an actual swear word. So I think we should bring odds bodkins back.
Odds bodkins. So would I use that when I'm amazed or surprised?
I mean, I think it's kind of a general purpose interjection. It was used mostly for irritation or anger, but it does show up as it loses its punch in the 17 and 1800s. It does sort of get to be sort of general purpose interjection. So for surprise, amazement, upset, disappointment, anger, irritation.
Odds bodkins. Okay.
Yeah. You might be pleased to know that it is actually on urbandictionary.com.
Oh, good. We're getting there.
And they say that odds bodkins is a term used by Georgia Nicholson, who I don't know who it is, a very hilarious, somewhat imaginary British girl, means something is exceptionally strange. Plus, it's fun to say.
It is.
I mean,
it is.
It is fun to say.
She had freakishly large hands. It was odds bodkins.
Oh, lexical extension.
Yep.
Lexical extension based on odd. Nice.
Oh, yeah, okay.
See, it has a life already.
It's just bubbling underground.
That's right.
Deaksu continues, is there a non-swear word that just sounds dirty that you like to use as a minced oath? The one that comes to my mind is habitual.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like nerds.
Nerds. Let's talk about nerds. When I was a young man, I used to play card games with my auntie, my Aunt Pat, and we played a game called Nerds.
What is this card game, Nerds? I don't know the card game.
Do you know Skip-Bo?
Yeah, I do know Skip-Bo. That was what Nerds was.
Oh my god, do you know the rules of Skip-Bo? Because someone gave that to us as a gift and I couldn't understand how it works.
I'll play Skip-Bo with you. But Nerds is Skip-Bo without taking turns. You just go.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. That works. I like Nerds. I tend to really love the phonetics of swearing.
Okay.
I very much like I like the mouthfeel of words, and nerds is one that is it's a ridiculous word, but it sounds slightly obscene. Like, it's not obscene at all. It's a colloquial U.S. term that means like crazy. It's a humorous pronunciation of nut, and so
yes, nuts.
Yeah, like nuts. So but because it's got I don't know why, it's that R, it's the liquid in the middle of it that makes everyone think that you're saying something slightly worse. So I like nerds.
It's very 40s and 50s, isn't it?
It is. Did you know, Daniel, that when the Hays Code, this is going to get really crazy. So in the U.S.,
yes.
There was a code that was put about in I think it was it the 30s or the late 20s by the movie industry to preserve the upright character of Americans by prohibiting certain things being shown on screen. So, for instance, like there were rules about kisses on screen. There were rules about what women could wear on screen, who could be on screen, and there was this long list of words that were prohibited being used in the Hays Code. And of course, we got all the profanity, but nerds was prohibited for use in the Hays Code.
Oh,
and I love it because it is not even remotely profane. Like, not even remotely. But nerds was a word that you could not say on in movies in America unless you wanted to get fined by the government.
Wow.
If I go around saying nerds, I'm going to sound like my Aunt Pat. Oh, nerds.
How does that make you feel? You sound ambivalent about that.
I remember my aunt with fondness, but I don't necessarily want to talk like her.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to. But I do like nerds, so I'm gonna have to get my head around this.
Okay.
I'll sort it out. Okay. Next one from Margaret on Facebook. This is a little bit of a longie, so let's think about this one. This is the pragmatics of swearing. I know you dig the phonology, but let's see how this goes. In the workplace, is a woman who swears more likely to be seen as one of the lads than women who don't? This depends on the workplace and other factors too, of course, but what I'm asking is if there's research on whether swearing is a good strategy for inclusion or whether it can have the opposite effect. I'm a woman and I never swear, at least not in front of others, because I was raised in a family where swearing wasn't accepted. Hello. I rarely feel the need to swear, although I must admit that occasionally I feel it limits the ways I have of expressing strong emotions. If I suddenly decided to add a number of swear words into my regular vocabulary, how do you think others would react? My friends, female and male, colleagues, neighbors, etc. Based on your research and experience, would men and women react differently to this change? Would they start to wonder if my personality has changed or simply my vocabulary? So this is a multi-layered question. Do you think that this is a good play to swear a little more? Drop them.
Oh, well, go
ahead,
Hedvig.
What do you think, Hedvig?
I was going to say, I think there's two different effects you might encounter. One is that you change the way you are, which is people are going to notice that and think about that as a change, regardless of what the change is to and from. Like if someone suddenly comes into work and starts wearing very deep plunging necklines and very high heels, and they didn't used to, regardless of what I think of high heels and plunging necklines, I'll notice that they have just changed their behavior, which is, notable in itself. I don't think of myself as swearing very much, but my brother does. And he has always told me that I swear too much, and I try to not swear so much when I'm around his kids. But I'm lucky enough to be in like academia with a bunch of people who are, how do you say, value casualness, I think, a lot.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, go around in sandals and sort of not iron shirts and things. So for me, swearing at what I think is a medium level is considered fine, I think. But if I suddenly stopped or if I increased it, I think people would notice.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think language is context, right? So it's hard to say, oh yeah, you can do it, or oh no, you can't do it, because
Go for it.
the context, these contexts vary. So there is sociolinguistic research done on attitudes, male attitudes and female attitudes towards women who swear. And generally speaking, it's not favorable. Women are not viewed favorably by men when they swear, and they are often not viewed, not as strongly unfavorably by women, but the general consensus is the perception of a woman who swears is that she's unprofessional, etc. Now, I have strong feelings about this because I am a sweary lady, and but at the same time, I am like you had, Dig, like I'm very aware of my context. And so if I'm in a context where I think, oh, you know what, if I swear here, if I'm in a business meeting and I swear, someone is going to be really upset. And you can just tell that by the fact that, we're in a business meeting and no one else is swearing. If I'm in a situation where I'm in a mixed gender group and someone starts swearing, I might join in or I might not, depending on the gender of the person swearing, what kinds of swears they're using, right? It's so difficult to say, yeah, you can do it or no, you can't, because it just is so contextually based.
And also power dynamics. If you're in a group where you have more power than others and you swear, that comes across differently.
Absolutely.
And might not make people feel safe and comfortable around you for whatever reason.
Yeah,
I definitely try and swear less around, like, if I'm teaching or if I have, like, people who are somehow under me hierarchically, I try to swear less.
Yeah. Yeah, I generally in the workplace try not to swear unless I am, unless I'm, we're at the water cooler. Though, lexicographers don't talk to each other at work, so there is no water cooler that we would gather around. But, if we're just, if we're hanging out after work and I'm talking with a colleague about work, then I might swear. But it would depend on who the colleague is and do I know them and what are we talking about? And it's usage rules when it comes to these sorts of dynamics are almost impossible to pin down. And so I'm sorry I don't have a good answer.
No, I think we are getting there. I was going to kind of say what Hedvig said, and that is that swearing is power language. So whether it's okay to swear or not is kind of a question of, do you have the power? If you don't have the power and you try to take the power, then somebody can say, you don't have the power. And that's like super bad. That's like the worst outcome that you would want, because you don't want to make that explicit. So if somebody, so if you try to take it there as a power grab, it could be really successful. It could be a really bad move.
As always, I think it's important to remember that the attitude of I'm just who I am and other people need to adjust to me is not feasible. We live in a society.
Right.
And as much as I enjoy, I actually don't swear that much, I think. Well, you can interview my brother at some point. He can say differently. But if I meet someone for the first time and they swear a lot, I'm gonna read some power stuff into that, and it's gonna shape my perception a lot of them, I think.
Yeah.
And let's also remember that women are constantly told that they do not have the power, that they are not the ones who have the power. Fuck that.
Right. Amen.
I am going to, when I hear women swearing, I'm going to make a conscious effort to adjust my attitude and say, that's okay with me.
Or just start swearing more in the same setting. I thought that's where you were going to go.
Well, I can take it that far, right?
Just let them take the lead and set the tone.
Yeah, I'll follow where that person goes. If a woman is swearing, I say to myself, I can go that far.
Yeah.
Right? And then if I go farther than that, then I'm in uncharted waters, but I can go that far.
I like that.
Okay. Finally, from Bob. Bob on Discord, our Discord channel. This is a reference to the irregardless flare-up of 2020. Was it Jamie Lee Curtis who she tweeted the mistaken impression that the dictionary had recently included irregardless and that this was a terrible 2020 kind of thing. So Bob says, I've quoted your chapter in word by word on irregardless countless times. Will people who oppose it ever accept it? And the people who support it stop fucking tagging lexicographers when this damn thing shows up in feeds every 6 months.
Well, to the last part, Bob, no, I will be tagged forever on Twitter anytime someone. I mean, that's fine. This is what I get for saying that I am America's foremost irregardless apologist.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's what I do. Here's the thing. For people to accept this means that they also have to accept a whole raft of language that our educational system and our society have taught us for centuries is uneducated, and no one wants to look uneducated. And so I think people who oppose irregardless, first, most of those people have at some point in their life used irregardless and not realized it, because when you ask people to self-report usage, they will always tell you what they think you want to hear.
Yeah.
Not what they actually do. This is why linguistic field studies is not generally going around and asking people, do you say this word that everyone thinks is stupid? No one's going to answer that accurately.
No.
So I think if people are going to, I don't think acceptance is necessarily where we need to go. I think not being rabidly foaming at the mouth when people use it is a better place to be, because it's fine for words to not be accepted into standard English. I mean, standard English is one variety of English, and we have, hundreds of other varieties of English, and all of them are fine. They all have their context, they all have their use. So if it's not accepted into standard English, fine. But I think what I would like to see is for people to understand that it's actually a very complex word with a very complex history. And a lot of the attitudes we have against it are really just kind of classist and elitist at core. And if we really want to live in a society where we are respecting the language of the people around us, that means that we have to check our own attitudes about someone's native dialect. I gave a presentation about irregardless a few years ago, and afterwards, someone in the audience came up to me and was like, thank you so much, it was so interesting. They said, my dad, who's 85, natively uses irregardless just the way that you said people use it. And he's tried so hard to not use it, but it's so ingrained and he's so afraid. And I'm going to tell him that this is actually part of his natural way of speaking and he should keep doing it. And that's what I want. I want people to say, okay, I don't use irregardless natively. I understand it's not part of standard English. I do not need to lose my mind when people use it, or I don't need to correct people, because people who use irregardless absolutely know that it's not part of standard English. They've been told this their entire lives. So maybe not acceptance, but tolerance would be better, I think.
As a second language speaker, I actually wasn't really informed that irregardless wasn't proper until fairly recently. But that's also, I'm also good at filtering out things I don't agree with. So I might have been told and just been whatever, not going to care. But I was going to ask, what do you think about when people sometimes phrase attitudes about language that they find somehow not suitable, instead of saying that it's not correct or it's not right, saying that it's a matter of aesthetics? I've had people say to me, I conjugate some verbs weakly in Swedish when they should be conjugated strongly because I like it better and whatever. And people say, maybe it's not incorrect, but, I don't like it, but I understand you. Just like how, you have a fashion preference. Like, I don't like lime green, for example. Mm-hmm. I don't shout at people when they walk down the street wearing lime green clothes, right? Like, I am able to, maybe it's still not moving. Maybe it's still not the best scenario because you still have sort of negative attitudes, but at least they're not phrased in terms of saying that other people are grammatically incorrect.
Right. I think in America, at least, that's an uphill battle simply because of the way that grammar has been framed as a sort of patriotic and moral uprightness.
Right.
And that can, we could have a 4-hour-long conversation about, American attitudes towards immigration and the English-only movement and what English gets to be English only. But I think that, some of it in America is that there is, we were a nation founded by felons and Puritans. And so, the felonious part of us likes to push boundaries and sort of stake our claim. And this is individualism. But the puritanical part of us really likes white and black rules. Like, we just like to have things be very clear. And unfortunately, language has fallen into this right and wrong dichotomy in American English education. I think that's starting to change a little bit, but there have been points through American history and recent American history where even just acknowledging that there's more than one kind of English has caused entire school boards to shut down schools. And so it's an uphill battle in America, but I think, if we want to use irregardless as the test case for that, I'm happy to have it be that way because it's a dialect term, but honestly, it's a pretty, even though people hate it so much, it's not heavily laden with sort of racial tension, which a lot of other dialect terms in English are. It derived as a dialect term in sort of the upper Midwest rural area, which Americans tend to think of as corn-fed white people. And so if we want to use it regardless as the test case, I think it probably has the lowest hurdles to that kind of tolerance, just because it pushes fewer tender spots in American history, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's what made me think that maybe you've chosen a more difficult task. Instead of trying to get people to accept irregardless, one word, you're trying to get people to confront their notions about classism. And that sounds a lot harder.
Yeah, we've not been good at that as a nation either, honestly.
This is fantastic. It's so great to talk about swearing, but also we ended on a very non-sweary note. Are there any questions that you've been getting that you wanted to bring up?
The one that has cracked me up the most is this is not so much a question as it was a confrontation, and that was how do your parents feel about you being on a show where all you do is swear? And and I said, first, I do other things besides swear on the show. I do talk about etymology. But
is it possible to construct a sentence where every word is a swear word?
Yes.
Yeah, of course there is.
Of course. Yeah.
How many sentences?
I mean, honestly, I was going to say we could probably construct a grammatical sentence using only the word fuck, frankly. I mean, it's possible. Yeah. So I just, for clarification, for those of you who feel that my family is so horribly embarrassed, I learned to swear from my parents. So I just want everyone to know my folks are cool with it. So my dad was a construction worker. My mom worked in manufacturing. This is, there are advantages to being like a blue collar kid. And one of them is you very early, you're exposed to the wide open fields of wonder that are swearing early on in your life.
And so you've taken that energy and you've sublimated into a very monastic way.
Yeah. Well, kids are going to rebel how kids rebel. So
Yeah. So why didn't you rebel by becoming a super anti-swearer, I guess?
I did actually have a period of time in my early 20s where I didn't swear, and it felt so unnatural to be policing myself constantly. So I was in a faith community that did not approve of swearing, and so I didn't. It was so hard. So.
Well, the show is The History of Swear Words. It's on Netflix. It features Kory Stamper, who's with us now. Kory, thanks for answering all these questions.
Yeah, thank you.
We are doing Words of the Week with Kory Stamper. Kory, you brought a word for us.
I did. It's kind of a depressing word. I'm sorry. It's been it's been a week, y'all. Yeah. So the word I'm bringing, it's not quite a word. It's a digraph. It's a phrase. Is big lie.
Oh, good one.
Which has been seen a lot in the American press in the last week, in particular. Capitalized, big, capital L, lie.
Yes.
And this is really fascinating for a couple of different reasons. So the capitalization should tell you that this refers to a specific thing, and it in fact does. Big lie actually traces back to theories in Nazi Germany about you can convince people of a big lie if you repeat it enough. Hitler used it, and then sort of Joseph Goebbels most famously said, if you tell a lie often enough, people will believe it. And this became known as the big lie. It referred specifically to sort of the propagandistic ideologies behind Nazism. And then it just kind of dropped out of use. But we have seen the big lie, capitalized, used a lot in the last 8 months. Once Donald Trump started hinting that the election would not be a fair election, you started seeing it pop up occasionally in print. But in the last 2 weeks in particular, it's everywhere in American press. Capitalized. And there's been an explanation often with this. Why are we capitalizing this? What is the big lie? The big lie is a big propagandistic statement made that undermines faith in government. Now, what's really fascinating on another part of this is that in America, at least, news outlets are really, really loath to call anything a lie. They don't use the word lie very often because so there's a style book called the Associated Press Style Book, and they're kind of the place that all newspapers look to for word choice and for style questions. And the Associated Press has said very, very clearly, you cannot call something a lie or say that a person is lying unless you can prove that they are intentionally miscommunicating or intentionally giving disinformation or misinformation.
Oh.
So the weight of the use of lie has really been on intention. And how can you prove the intention of anybody, right? So the American press has really steered away from using lie. And now it's everywhere, which, granted, it's in this digraph, it's in this phrase, but the fact that lie is appearing so much in the press here is really shocking if you're a word nerd who follows these patterns, because it signals that, you know, the press not only is saying, okay, like the intention is clearly there and so you can use it now, but now they're also placing it in terms of propaganda, which is a really bold statement for the American press to make. So that's my word of the week, big lie.
That is such a good word. It just does speak to the fact that I think the press is done. They are done playing.
Yeah.
They're just calling it straight. And we've heard all kinds of synonyms like without evidence or baselessly claimed.
Yeah. Unsubstantiated. Unsubstantiated rumors. Yeah. You've seen a lot of that. Misstatement has been used a lot in the last 5 years, which is, I mean, it's hard because I understand the libel laws in America are not as bad as they are in other countries, but you don't want to say something that's going to get your newsroom sued. But at the same time, it's kind of weaselly, right? To just say, well, it's an unsubstantiated claim, or it's a, it's a possibly mistakenly. Like, well, no, it's clearly a mistake, and it's not a possible mistake. And so yeah, it's been an interesting week for the word lie. I think the idea of pulling big lie and hearkening back to propaganda also seats it in a really different space too, because in that way it almost doesn't absolve, but it at least gives a point where you can understand how people would believe this, because that's what propaganda is meant to do. Propaganda is meant to convince people of things. So the thing that's interesting about Big Lie is it also squarely places the blame for misinformation on, government officials who are saying this, not necessarily the people who stormed the Capitol or the people who post on Facebook or things like that. It's the people who are continuing to propagate this belief that the election was stolen. So that's also an interesting shift, right? It absolves some people of believing it, because that's what a big lie is supposed to do. It's supposed to get people to believe it. Sorry, that was so uncheery.
No, that was
No, but it's a word from the week for sure.
It is cheerless cheese for sure.
No cheese for you. I'm giving you 0 out of 4 cheese. My word was similarly cheery, Orwellian.
Oh, yeah.
So it seems that U.S. Republican Senator from Missouri and member of the Sedition Caucus, Josh Hawley. Sedition Caucus was another one. I wanted to do that one, but I worked it in here. He got his book deal yanked because he took the lead in an attempt to overturn the will of the voters and install Donald Trump as dictator for life. He called losing his book deal a direct assault on the First Amendment. He said he was being canceled by the left and that this could not be more Orwellian. Thoughts?
Orwell got published.
He got a book deal. I should also mention that after Twitter suspended Donald Trump's account, Donald Trump Jr. announced that free speech no longer exists in America. He tweeted this to his 6.5 million followers. And he said, we are living in Orwell's 1984. So there's a few people mentioning Orwellianism.
So I'll state the obvious, which is Orwell's 1984 and the adjective Orwellian tend to refer to totalitarian states, not private organizations or corporations.
Right.
But what's interesting to me is it's clever, though. It's clever to have people in government claim something is Orwellian, because it communicates a tone. It definitely makes people... It riles people up, and it makes people think that, in fact, the media is controlling things, which, is not true.
I mean, it touches on another conversation that's really hard to have, and I don't think we should have at this moment because there's too much else going on, but this discussion about whether big tech is providing a public service and should therefore be... I agree. I also think that being banned on Twitter is not, getting your free speech revoked. But I mean, it's more similar to it than in the 80s when someone didn't publish your column in a newspaper.
Yeah, I mean, the democratization of speech through social media and the access. We're not going to talk about this because it's late where Daniel is, and
but it made me think about as well, because when you first said big lie, it made me think of big bad and big tech and whatever big is doing, because
big pharma.
There's something going on there. I thought first when you said big lie, it was going to be similar to big bad, but it's not.
Oh, yeah.
It's so weird to me that the authoritarian right has taken on Orwell as some kind of free speech totem. I mean, he fought in the Spanish Civil War against the fascists,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
But now they're arguing that censorship is Orwellian. But 1984 isn't about censorship. It's not really. It's about manipulating language to influence thought.
Right.
Kind of like referring to cancel culture when what you mean is everybody suddenly deciding that Josh Hawley is a dangerous jerk who shouldn't be mistaken for a serious thinker.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the book is also a great example of how I've been thinking a lot about this, and it's unfortunately also a downer, but just rational, you can do a lot of things with rational argumentation, and you can work based on premises and prove a lot of things. And in the Orwell book, they prove a world to their citizens that works in a certain way, that makes them act in a certain way. And there is, I don't know, I don't know if arguing with these people is gonna work. They've built up these, I don't know what the alternative is either. Sorry, this is very downer, but...
No, this is good. This is good. So what I've said, I think I said this the week that Trump got elected, and I didn't know how right I was. Trumpism is an authoritarian cult. The best way to understand Trumpism is as a religion. And I have enough experience talking to religious people to know that, and having once been religious myself, you couldn't have argued me out of the church. You couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Right.
I would have gone straight back to my support community for intellectual bulwarking and because it gives you something, you know, it does something for you, but it gives you a place in a narrative. It has its own media ecosystem that you can go to. You can deny reality for a really long time.
Some people are saying that this upcoming inauguration and everything is going to be an interesting point for the whole QAnon conspiracy community, where maybe there is a little bit of an out for some people because some of the prophecies will turn out to not be true. Because I was thinking, I was going to suggest my word of the week be the storm, but I think... I think we don't, I don't know how much of a downer this section could be.
Dang, you're scaring me.
It's fascinating and terrifying to try and understand the process of thinking that goes behind these actions. I have the benefit of not being an American citizen and being able to have some distance to it. I know that's not something I share with everyone on this show. And
yeah, and by the time I edit and post this, it's going to be like 1 day away.
Wow.
From the inauguration and Trump leaving for good. Oh,
Wow.
It's getting closer and more terrifying. There is another couple of words that I want to get to, though. One of them kept coming up with reference to Trump's encouragement of a violent mob to storm the U.S. Capitol, and it was to egg on. Kept seeing egg on. He was egging the crowd on. What's up with eggs? Eggs?
Has it got to do with the swords?
Nope.
Oh.
What swords?
The pointy end of the pointy side of a sword in Swedish is egg.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I changed my mind. Yes, it's totally that.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh. Yeah.
Because when you have the pointy edge of a sword,
Yes.
that is what it comes from. So it comes from Old Norse eggja, to goad on or incite, from egg, which was the edge. So when you're egging a crowd on, you're pushing them to the edge, as Trump, in fact, did, and then right over.
Amazing.
Isn't that great?
That's so good. Oh, Old Norse is so great.
It is. But the part that I love about this is that we had eggja, and then, you know, these English speakers who didn't know Norse, after a while, they just said, well, we're going to make it an egg. We're going to egg someone on. Right. So what this is, it's an egg corn with actual eggs.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, we've reached eggcorn singularity. Amazing.
Eggcornception. For those who don't know, an eggcorn is a mistake that makes sense, which this one is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it.
Wow.
Yep.
Love it.
All right. And finally, swoveralls. I came across this term a couple of times on Twitter. What are swoveralls? Anyone guess? What's the
Is it a combination of swerve and overall?
Is
Of
it
what?
To swerve.
Swerve. Oh, right. You're driving. You see some overalls in the street. You got to get around those things instead of running them over, because it might be a person in there.
Is it a blend of sweats and overalls? I'm trying to think of what we're all wearing since none of us is going into the office.
Yes, that is what it is. It's a combination of sweatpants. It's overalls made of sweatpants material.
Oh, now I want them very badly.
How is that not just what was that thing that was so popular and then went away? Like onesies or what are they called? Skoo.
They were rompers.
Rompers.
No.
We had
No, the S one.
What?
The S one.
Snuggle, snuggle.
Oh, snuggly.
The snuggly.
The snuggly.
It was a garment.
Yeah, it was basically like a blanket that had snaps and a zipper on it, and you could like enfold yourself. It was called in the States. It was called a snuggly, which is a trade name, I believe.
No, I think it's snuggie.
Oh, snuggie?
Snuggie?
Oh. I clearly never had one, because if I did, I would be able to tell you what it was called.
Or snuggly. Oh, no, there's both. Oh, no.
So we could combine all three. We could have like a snuggly made of swoveralls, and it could be like I need a portmanteau. 3-way portmanteaus are hard. It's a swugliall.
Well, now that just sounds gross, Daniel.
Okay, but it's not as bad as cheer cheese.
It's true.
I'd like to recommend all of our listeners as a very, very ingrained robe person. I recommend getting many different kinds of robes and just wearing that at all times. You got your thin robes, you got your more sturdy robes, you got your like Japanese inspired robes that have like pockets inside the sleeves. I'm wearing a bathrobe right now. Just robes is the best lockdown life. Yeah.
I think that's great. I have had a long conversation with friends of mine about finding the best soft pants, which is one of those sort of amazing terms that only the pandemic could give. You know, soft pants being like comfortable pants you wear at home, and of course hard pants then being business trousers that you wear in the office. Hard pants. So
we call sweatpants soft pants in Swedish. So we're one step ahead of ya.
I was going to say the Swedes are so much better at so many things in America.
But we don't have hard pants. We don't have hard. I like hard pants. That's very good.
You like hard pants? Hard pants is a great term, but it's because it's one of those that you say it and you know exactly what you mean by it. Like, oh yes, hard pants. They're not actually
jeans are hard pants,
but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that a retronym?
Oh, it might be.
I think it is.
Yeah, a retronym with a little bit of lexical distinguishing. Yeah. Nice.
So, big lie, Orwellian, egg on, and swoveralls are words of the week. We got a couple of comments from Diego on Patreon. Hello again. Thought you might find this interesting, and it might inspire you to see what the word of the year was in other languages. We have mentioned the Real Academia Española, kind of like the Académie Française, but for Spanish. Their word of the year was confinamiento, which is confinement, but in a special lockdown sort of way. So that's that one. And then Raya on Patreon, and this is about our episode Mailbag of Spedrun. Hi, great episode, especially the final discussion regarding vowels and accents. Just a small comment, though. You mentioned that Arabic and Hebrew are written with no vowels, which is incorrect. They are both written with long vowels only. Short vowels are also written, but as diacritics or vocalizations, little markings above and below the letters. For example, the word for book in Arabic, kitab, is written as the equivalent of KTAB. Anyway, I'm planning on researching Arabic dialects, and this got me thinking about the difference in vowels across them, something that I never thought about because mostly they differ in lexical items and morphology. So thanks. Cool, huh?
Cool.
But I thought you could also maybe. Oh, okay. I'm not going to pick a fight with a fire. But I thought that sometimes there are Arabic styles and Hebrew styles where you can delete the diacritics as well.
I have seen it that way, but I'm not well versed enough to fight back on this one.
Let's figure it out.
Raya continues, also, how can I join your Discord channel? Raya, you can do that by heading over to Patreon and signing up at the supporter level. That's patreon.com/becauselangpod. And you get bonuses like earlier this month. I played Blabrex with some of our fabulous patrons, although we had to make up the rules as we went along. It was fun, and we're going to make it a regular thing. So, Kory, have you heard of Blabrex?
I believe I have. Is this the Scrabble-like game where you only use non-words that could pass morphologically as words?
Precisely.
Excellent.
I thought we were going to have to score like traditional Scrabble, but then I realized that was too hard. And then we figured out that if you could just get a word past the AI, that was 1 point.
Okay.
And if you used all your letters, that was 2 points.
Excellent.
Mm.
You got to keep it
fun.
simple because you're going to spend all your time trying to think of morphologically passable non-words.
It's true. I did. Kory Stamper, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This has been so much fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This has been great.
Yeah, and we want to talk to you again when you get more books out because I like your books. You're really funny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will let you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I saw that Daniel had written more questions for us to ask you, and we didn't ask all of them. So that's great. We'll have more for next time.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to find out if I will pick a fight with you if you become a Patreon, why not become a Patreon and find out? Our next episode is a Patreon-only bonus episode. It's a mailbag. And if you want to hear it the minute it comes out, instead of waiting 3 months, then become a Patreon supporter. Also, this is a special announcement. Beep, 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 beep. All of our Patreons, check your mailbox. You should have received something from us physically in your mailbox, and we would very much like to know if you have received them. So please let us know. Send us pictures of you holding up the things you get. That would be lovely. One of the reasons it's not coming is because 2020 pandemic, everything is not going as it should. We would have liked for you to get these things earlier, but that didn't happen, and we're grateful for your patience. We'd like to give a special shout out to our patrons who are currently supporting us, and if you want to be included in this list, go ahead and join this lovely group of people. So they are Termy, Crispy, Lissa, The Major, Chris L, Matt, Damien, Helen, Bob, Jack, Kitty, Lord Mortis, Elias, Mikael, Michael, one of the two, tell me which one, or we can fight about it. Larry, Bin, Christopher, Dustin, Andy, Mai, Nigel, Kate, Jen, Nazrin, Nikolai, Aish, Emma, Moe, Andrew, James, Shane, and new this week, Eloise and Roger. Thank you all.
You can also send us questions for the upcoming mailbag episode. We are Because Lang Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon, Patreon, and even TikTok. Or you can send us a retrograde email, hello@becauselanguage.com. Now, just a note, I have declared email bankruptcy from last year, so if you still have a question and I didn't get to it and it's still important, please send it again. We would love it if you would please tell all your intelligent and kind friends about us. If you have friends that are like super into their cheese names, maybe don't tell them. You can write us a review in all the reviewy places, or you could even hunt down people who ask for podcast recommendations on social media and tell them about us, because that's what the Sandman is doing at Stories Sandman. Seriously, in the last week, he's been recommending us to like 7 or 11, 12 different people. It's fantastic. What a ledge. Anyway, if you do those things, it'll help people find us, and that makes us feel very happy in our hearts. Our music has been written and performed by Drew Kreplianov, who is a member of Ryan Bino and Didion's Bible. Their second EP, cleverly titled EP2, is now available on Bandcamp. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Because Language.